All rise.
The Kosovo Specialist Chambers is now in session.
Please be seated. Good morning, everyone. Madam Court Officer, will you please call the case?
Morning, Your Honors. This is case KSC BC 2020-07, the Specialist Prosecutor versus Icdy Gucati and Haradinaj.
Any change in the appearance from the prosecution?
Yes, Your Honor. For the SPO is present today also Molly Norburg, legal intern.
Thank you. Mr. Reese, any change?
No change, Your Honor.
Mr. Cadman, any change in your group?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Gucati is present in court and is in the witness stand and ready to proceed. Mr. Haradinaj is present online. Mr. Haradinaj, it's still okay for you to be appearing remotely?
Paul.
Thank you.
Yes, by tomorrow I hope to be there.
Mr. Haradinaj. Mr. Reese, you may proceed if you have a question or a comment.
Can I just raise two matters for housekeeping purposes? At some point that's convenient today, I don't necessarily propose now, because I'm conscious that we wish to proceed with the evidence, but at some point today I'd like to raise both timetabling for the resolution of the outstanding Rule 1023 matter, so that we can plan further ahead. And secondly, I'd like to raise as well and discuss our proposed approach to the remaining defence witnesses, again, for the purposes of receiving some guidance so that we can plan properly for the remainder of the defence case.
Certainly. Perhaps right after lunch we can take that up and then proceed onward.
Thank you.
Is that all right with the prosecution?
It's all right, Your Honor, and we also have one matter to notify to the trial panel in relation to the Haradinaj defense request for leave to appeal, which has been notified to us yesterday, filing F00474. So in view of paragraph 120 of the trial panel's decision F00470, the SPO will not object to the leave to appeal, and we don't intend to file further written submission on this matter.
Thank you very much. Madam Prosecutor, you may proceed with your cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Gucati.
Good morning.
Mr. Gucati, in relation to the first batch of documents that you distributed at the press conference of the 7th of September 2020, you were aware that these were SITF SPO documents, weren't you?
Initially, we did not know that they came from KSC. We told the media that they need to be verified. The origin needs to be verified on whether it comes from the Kosovo Specialist Chambers or not.
Looked at the document before the press conference. Did you realize that these were SITF and SPO documents?
No, we did not check them in detail. It was a huge volume of documentation, as you said earlier, roughly 4,000 in total. And they were documents coming from the ICTY, and we weren't aware that these were documents coming from the KSC until it was said so. It was admitted that they were.
Referring, Mr. Guzzati, to paragraph 14 of your statement, DHG 0472 to DHG 0493. Do you still have your statement in front of you?
No, I don't.
Please, in the meanwhile, put the Albanian version of the statement on the screen.
I understand that the hard copy that Mr. Guzzati's been using was taken in by the court officer at the end of proceedings yesterday. If that could be returned to him.
It's being retrieved as we speak.
Right, okay.
I would like the witness to be able to see his statement, if possible, at least on the screen. He has it. Okay.
Mr. Guzzati, can you see the statement?
I did not hear.
Can you see?
I'm sorry, can you see the statement, your statement on the screen?
Yes, Your Honor.
In paragraph 14 of your statement, you state, we were looking through the documents and ascertained that the documents were from the KSC SPO. We realized that they were official documents, but they were also documents from Serbia. We realized that they were important documents and that it was in our interest to find out how the documents...
Hold up, Ms. Bilici, she's got the document.
Yes. We realized that they were important documents and that it was in our interest to find out how the documents came out of the KSC SPO offices. So based on your statement, you understood that the documents were KSC SPO documents and that they were important documents, right?
The statement is true and accurate, and point 14 there. This was after the news conference and after we were able to ascertain that they were from the KSC. It's true that I said that, but that was after the first press conference. That's true.
Look at your statement, Mr. Guzzati. In the previous paragraph, in paragraph 13, you describe the moment when you look at the documents together with Mr. Faton Klinaku, Mr. Nazim Haradinaj, and the other members of the KLA, War Veteran Association Committee. Based on the chronology of the statement, it appears that this check was done before the press conference and not after. Do you recall that?
As I said yesterday, and I'm emphasizing today, we did look at the documentation, but we could not possibly believe that these were documents that could have leaked from the KSC. This is true. We did have a look at those documents, but we were not able to believe until a certain point in time that these documents did indeed come from the KSC. That is true.
You were looking through them, you saw that there were documents signed by the SITF and SPO prosecutors. Is this correct?
No, I do not pay any attention to the signatures. It's only the logo at the top of the documents which indicates that they came from the KSC.
And did you notice different names of different prosecutors of the SITF on these documents?
I did not look at the stamps. As I said earlier, yes, I did notice the logos. I did not look at the seals. I wasn't keen to look at that. I was more interested to see the kind of cooperation that existed between this court and the others.
And you told yesterday that you were surprised and annoyed because there was a cooperation between the SITF and the Serbian Prosecution Office. Is this correct?
It took us by surprise. I did not say it yesterday, and I say it again today. It's a Kosovo chamber set up by Parliament, and the fact that it cooperates with Serbian criminals is an issue of concern, yes.
Looking at the documents, you realize that there was a cooperation between the SITF and the Serbian Prosecution Office. Is this correct? You saw that there were letters addressed to these individuals by the SITF?
I did not go through the papers one by one, and what I've seen, I'm explaining here. I've seen 10, 20 of those in which the KSC requests the cooperation of Serbian courts. That's what I've seen. I've noticed some of the meetings that you've had with the Serbian court.
Also see that there were responses from the Serbian Prosecution Office to the SITF.
I do not know English, so I don't know whether they replied or not. You have asked questions, and whether they answered or not, I don't know, because I don't know English. I said that yesterday as well. I cannot speak English.
Responses in Serbian language between from the Serbian Prosecution Office to the SITF. Now, when you looked at the Serbian documents, you saw that there was the logo of the Serbian Prosecution Office, didn't you?
I can't recall seeing the logo of the prosecutors, but the documents were from the Serbs. Yes, to be frank with you, I cannot recall seeing the logo. It could very well have been, but I can't recall it.
You notice that the correspondence addressed from the SITF to the Serbian Prosecution Office had been logged by the Serbian authorities. Is this correct?
I did not pay any attention to the logging number. I was keener to see the two collaborators of the KSE or the SPO offices. So the logging number for me was not of interest to me, and I did not pay any attention to it.
Did you note whether there were any stamps or reference numbers indicating that these documents had been registered by the Serbian authorities?
I did not submit them to a proper scrutiny, which would have been the case, in order to ascertain on whether they were truthfully documents coming from the Serbs. Even though I have made the request from the Kosovo Police, Kosovo Investigates, your office, in order to be able to ascertain the origin of these documents, whether they came from you or from the Serbs. So what is real there is the cooperation between you and the Serbian Prosecutor's Office.
Show to the witness the exhibit P0009 80 side by side with P0009 ET and in particular page 6. Mr. Guzzati, if you look at line 7 of these transcripts, which correspond to an interview that you have given in the afternoon of the 7th of September to the TV show Imaz, you stated here, on the basis of these are documents of Serbian prosecutor, amongst these documents, with the Serbian crest and stamp in the Cyrillic language, which I know well because I served as a soldier of the former Yugoslavia during the unintelligible years and can still read the Serbian language a little bit. And so we read those.
Sorry for interrupting, but the reference to line 7, that's obviously a reference to the English translation. But Ms. Belici give the reference for the line, the relevant line in Albanian, for Mr. Guzzati to follow.
There is a difference.
Yes. If you could please look, Mr. Guzzati, at line 12, the paragraph starting with line 12.
Give him a moment, please,
Yes.
to read it.
Can I read from line 7 to line 12, given that you're not reading out what I've said? So the honours have a chance to see here. As I said, we have not verified anything officially, so from an official point of view, I cannot say, well, the documentation was fake or genuine. That's line 7.
The question is a different one. In the paragraph that starts with line 12, did you state that there are documents of the Serbian prosecutors among the documents with the Serbian crest and stamp in the Cyrillic language? Do you accept to have said that?
I said based on the papers, and that's what I said, based on the documents coming from the prosecutor's office in Serbia. And as I said, based on the documentation, yes, that is the case. On line 7, however, I also added that I had not been able to subject them to proper forensic analysis. That's exactly what I've said. Line 7, line 12, and always with reference to the documents.
You were able to focus on the fact that there were Serbian crest and stamps, correct? Is this correct?
No, we had a press conference within a couple of hours. We weren't able to see it in detail. The prosecutors from the KSC came a day later to retrieve the documentation, so we were not in a position to check.
You were able to notice that there was this crest, and this is why you were able to report this to the TV interviewer. Isn't it the case?
I cannot recall saying that on TV. I might have said it via some other portal or media outlet, but what I've said is that, yes, there are Serbian documents. I'm not an expert in the field, and I cannot verify it, so I support, even to this day, that position, that what I said was that there were Serbian documents in there, but on whether they were genuine or not, I'm not an expert and wasn't able to ascertain.
You said that there were Serbian stamps and Serbian crest is because you had seen them beforehand. Isn't it the case? Otherwise, you couldn't have said. Do you agree? Transcript that is in front of you reflect your words, Mr. Gucati.
I'm not certain. I don't want to lie here. It may well be the case, but I cannot recall. I'm sorry.
I will go to the video of this interview later on. First, I want to show you yet another transcript, and this is exhibit P00028ET, side by side, if possible, with P00028AT, and in particular, page 14.
Your Honour, could I ask that Ms. Berici establishes the date and time of these transcripts before turning to the relevant passage that she wishes to?
Yes, I will. This is an interview, Mr. Gucati, that you provided to the KTV on the 22nd of September 2020. And if you look at, could we please move the Albanian transcript to the previous page, page 13? And Mr. Gucati, if you could look at line 12. Wait a moment. If you could look from line 8 onwards, which correspond to line 1 of page 14 of the English transcript. Here, the interviewer interviewer asked you, some documents have got the official stamp and reference number of the Serbian prosecutor's office. Do you think or suspect that maybe these have come from the prosecutor's office in Belgrade? To which you reply, it is true that there are official stamps. The journalist asks, I'm talking about the reference numbers, which means that they have been logged by that office. To which you reply, yes, you're right, they have been logged. There are stamps and reference numbers. There are different dates. Based on what you stated in the course of this interview, Mr. Gucati, it appears you looked at the stamps and reference numbers of the Serbian documents, and you were able to realize that they had been logged by the Serbian prosecutor's office. Is this correct?
The information related here came to me via the media and the journalists. I had not noticed myself that there were stamps or logging numbers. The journalist asked me a question and I replied yes. This is from the media that I learned of the documents delivered on the 7th of September, because on the first day I did not notice the presence of the stamps. It is true. So what I've said here comes via the media, via what I learned from the media.
Mr. Gucati, you were asked whether these documents had been logged, and you confirmed that yes, there were reference numbers and different dates. When had you looked at these documents?
As I said, I saw them on the 7th of September. The stamps, I did not see any logging numbers. The logging numbers came to me via the media when I saw it on media portals, when they mentioned that there were logging numbers and so on. That's when the information came to me. I was not interested in looking at that kind of thing initially.
The information that you are providing to the journalist in the course of this interview, it's consistent with the information that you provided to the journalist in the interview that I've shown you a moment ago, which was in the afternoon of the 7th of September, right after you delivered the documents to the press. Is it the case that you had looked at these stamps and signs at the moment when you went through the documents, together with Nazim Haradinaj, Fatun Klinaku, and the other members of the committee?
This interview was carried out at 11 o'clock at night, not at midday at 2 or 3. So it's late in the evening, after 11 o'clock, after I'd seen information on the portals. The documents emerged onto the media portals, and that's where I noticed that there were stamps and logging numbers. And this came during that interview with the interactive program on KTV, and that was after 11 o'clock in the evening.
When you went, you said at paragraph 19 of your statement, if you still have it in front of you, that at the press conference there were 4 identical copies of the documents, and that they were laid out and made available to the press and media. How did you establish that the copies of the documents that were delivered to the KLA War Veteran Association were 4 identical copies? How did you ascertain that?
What they said is true, and I said the same yesterday. My best guess was that it was roughly about 4,000 pages or 4 files. The front page was the same. It had exactly the same signature, so we thought that it was exactly the same, and that led us to believe that they could be copies of each other.
Affirmed that there were 4 identical copies. Did you look only at the first page, or you looked also at the other pages?
If I recall correctly, the 10 or 20 pages that I was able to look at, they looked the same. They look the same, at least from my point of view.
Did you put all these 4 copies on a table? Where did you look at them? You were being warned yesterday, you should not mention names of SPO staff members in open court. Is there something unclear about this?
I apologize for that, but it skips my mind, and it's not that I have a special attention to mention his name, because he is known as a good man in Kosovo, from all the people in Kosovo. Therefore, I don't know why you fear about him, because we've had coffees with him, we've spent time with him, and this is why I sometimes mention his name. I've had coffees with that person, I know him well, and I think that there is nothing wrong with mentioning his name. Like I said, we've had a good relationship with him.
Ms. Gucati, you've been warned and re-warned. Ms. Bolici has told you, I'm sure your attorney has told you, you cannot use those names. Do you understand?
Yes, I do, Your Honor. I apologize.
We will try to remind you periodically so that you remember. Yes, Mr. Rees.
I think it is quite difficult for Mr. Gucati to give his testimony without the use of any sort of substitute for the name of that investigator. Perhaps Mr. Gucati can refer to, if he wishes to, as Officer X in future. Would that help?
It's fine with us. The name is what we're trying to avoid, and frankly, it wasn't even necessary for him to bring up that particular item, and he did on his own, and he decided to use the name. So you've been warned again, Mr. Gucati. You may use the word X if you wish, referring to that person. Go ahead, Ms. Bolici.
Thank you. Mr. Gucati, I would like to focus on the moment when you looked at the documents that were delivered to the KLA War Veteran Association on the 7th of September. Where did you place these documents in order to look at them?
On the 7th of September, these documents were taken to my office. Like they were in the badge, we distributed them in my working desk. Like I said, so we only opened up to 20 pages. Nobody else did anything else. Nobody else looked through more pages. We were in my office, and then we took the files and we sent them in the 5th floor where the media were standing.
You put the 4 different files next to each other. Is this correct?
Yes, that is very correct, and that's something that you can see for yourselves on the camera.
I'm talking about the moment before the press conference, in the moment when you look at the files to assess what these files contain. So at this point, you're looking at the files you write in your statement together with Fadon Klinaku, Nazim Haradinaj, and other members of the KLA War Veteran Committee. Is this correct?
Can you please repeat the question again? because it was not clear to me that it's at all possible.
When you receive the file, you look at them together with Nazim Haradinaj, Faton Klinaku, and other members of the KLA War Veterans Association Committee. Is this correct?
It is very correct.
Is it correct that you put the 4 different copies of these files on the table in your office? Is this correct?
Very correct.
You verified that these 4 copies were identical to each other. Is this correct?
It's not that we verified all the documents from the beginning to the end, but we looked at the first pages. So the documents that were there, so the 10 first pages or 20 first pages were the same. It's not that we went through the whole document from the beginning to the end, but we just saw the surface of those documents, and that's true, yes.
Were the same. How did you do? What did you look at into these pages?
We read, we saw the same documents, we saw the special courts. I mean, this is what we saw. It's not that we analyzed them in details because the time was very short, because we were preparing ourselves for the conference.
To compare the pages, which elements of each page did you look at in order to conclude that pages were identical?
Like I said, we couldn't see the details because we are not forensic experts. We can't see and we can't say for a fact on whether documents were authentic or the copies of one another. But we saw that the layout was the same, the numbers were the same, and that's how we came to that conclusion. It's not that we had any forensic analysis on verifying the fact that there were copies of one another.
You looked at the fact that the numbers were the same. So which numbers are you referring to? The case numbers that were on these pages?
I'm not a lawyer myself. I'm neither a prosecutor or a judge. Therefore, I can't tell you on whether, there was this kind of number or that number. What I saw was that the number of pages was the same. I don't know whether that was a consequent numbering or serial number of pages, but the content was the same. I can guarantee that to you. Otherwise, I can't tell you anything else. I'm not an expert. I can't tell. I don't know about the substance of the document.
Mr. Gucati, and while you looked at these documents, you realized that these documents contained names and statements of witnesses, didn't you?
No, I mostly saw the signing of the declarations. I didn't see the names of the witnesses. I mostly see the Serbian people whose names I'm not allowed to refer. I saw their statements in the first pages.
What do you mean when you say I saw their statements in the first pages? The statements of whom?
I'm talking about the statements of the Serbian witnesses.
Doesn't that question ask for names, in which case
You're correct.
into
You
private
might
session
want to
so that the
rephrase that
witness can
question because
answer?
it asked him for a name.
Well, I think, or isn't it fair to go into private session to allow the witness to answer freely?
No. Go ahead, rephrase the question.
Yeah, I rephrased the question. So, did you see statements of Serbian witnesses, Mr. Gucati? Did you verify whether there were names of witnesses of different ethnicities, for example, Serbian, Turks, Roma, and Albanian witnesses?
I said it before as well. I am not a forensic expert. I cannot ascertain on whether the documentation was accurate or not. Like I said yesterday, I take revenge on no person. That's not me. Therefore, neither in televisions or in public media have I ever referred to the Albanian names. This is what I saw. This is what I'm telling you at your presence.
Was different. Did you see in the documents that there were names and statements of witnesses of various ethnicities, for example, Serbian, Turks, Roma, and Albanian witnesses? Did you or did you not?
I was mostly interested in the statements about Adem Yashari. I saw that statement there. I was surprised by the declaration, by the statement. And I am sure that 99% of those witnesses have lied. I mean, there were Serbs, Turkish, Romas. I mean, there were people, and I was not interested at all about their statements.
So, therefore, that there were statements of Serbs, Turkish, and Roma's witness. Is this correct?
So I didn't say Albanian, but I said that I have seen statements of different ethnicities. I was not interested in their statements. I was not interested to see that this statement says this and that, and I have referred to no statement in the media when I've met them.
The question is if you have seen such names and statements of witnesses. Did you, Mr. Gucati? Names of Serbian, Roma, Turks, and Albanian witnesses. Have you noticed statements of Serbs, Roma, Turks, and Albanian witnesses in the files?
So like I said, I don't know English. There were statements in the English language and in the Serbian language. And like I said several times by now, I was not interested to read any of these statements. If that were the case, I would have told you here in the hearing. I have not read a single statement because I was not interested into that. What I was interested
Witness, Mr. Gucati.
I said it before. I have not ever dealt with them. I don't want to deal with them. If I was interested in those statements, I would have asked for a private hearing, and I would have told you their first names and last names. I would have told you that X or Y. I mean, these have provided these statements. I mean, there are people that the whole population knows, and that's the kind of person whom I don't know how to refer. And like I said, if I had read anything, I would have told you, I would have asked for a private hearing, and I would have given you the names. It's not a problem at all to me.
So besides you not being particularly interested in these very minor witnesses, you saw that there were statements of other witnesses in these files. Is this correct?
No, that is not correct. I didn't say that I have seen or I have read. I have only been interested in the statements of the Serbian prosecution office and authorities, Vukcevic and others. Like I said, I have not spent any time with the other witnesses, and that's true for myself and my friends as well. It's not that I want to defend anyone, but that's reality.
To show you, Mr. Gucati, the transcript of the interview that you provided on the 7th of September to the TV show IMAZ, and this is exhibit P0009 80 and 80. For the English version, this is page 7, first line. And for the Albanian versions, it should be also page 7, if you could please put it on the screen.
Ms. Palucci,
Yeah,
give us the
I'm giving
date
it.
and
Yeah.
time, please, the interview.
I
Thanks.
already gave it. It's the interview of the 7th of September provided to the TV show IMAZ. And Mr. Guzzati, could you please give a look at line 7 onwards of page 7 of the transcript of the interview that you have in front of you? You stated in the course of this interview there is a wide range of people there. There are Serbian, there are Roma, Turks. Do you accept to have said that?
I said that here. I said that about 10 minutes or 5 minutes. I said that there were Roma, Turks, Serbs.
And you were asked, is there in the files that you have seen names of witnesses, records of the interviews? I'm referring to the next sentence. And you replied, there are witness names and interviews. Do you accept that you knew that there were witness names and interviews in the documents that you received on the 7th of September? For the court officer, if we could please, if it's being broadcasted, put the redacted version of P0009 on the screen. ET. Page 7. So, Mr. Guzzati, in relation to the answer that you gave when you stated there are witness names and interviews, do you agree that when you looked at the documents, you realized that there were witness statements and interviews in the batch of documents that you shared with the press on the 7th of September 2020?
It is true that I have said that I have seen, and I've seen the days as well, because there are these days that are referred here, Wednesday, Friday, Thursday, and in line 21 and 22 there is this question, and you can have a look at these lines, and the question is, what about Albanians? And I said no. So I said that I have seen, but I was not interested in the statements of the liars, of these liars, and this is the reason why I've said what I said, and this is what I'm telling you today as well.
Later, in the course of the same interview, you were asked, you were referring to specific interviews, and then you were asked, are the witnesses Serb for this one and the other one that you mentioned? And you replied, no, Albanian. Do you agree that you also saw that there were witnesses, there were interviews of Albanian witnesses in the batch of documents that you shared at the press conference of the 7th of September 2020?
Unë nuk e di që kupton ti ju.
I do not know how do you understand that, but I said no. I have not seen. I have not seen Albanian witnesses. So this is what I've said. No Albanian. So it's very clear in Albanian. I've said no Albanian. I've said that the witnesses are Serbian. So the answer to that question is no, no Albanian. So you can read that into the Albanian language. That is in 921.
Were asked in relation to a specific interview you referred to whether the witnesses were Serb for this one and the other one, for this interview and the other interview that you mentioned. And your reply was no, Albanian. Weren't you saying here that the witness was not Serbian but Albanian?
Jo nuk ishte shqiptar, jo serb.
No, no. I mean, the way on how it should be read is no Albanian. So this is what it means. There was no Albanian. This is how it can be paraphrased. And if I say yes, Albanian, that would mean that there were Albanians there, because at least I know Albanian well, because I'm an Albanian. So I come from an Albanian family, and this is what I said here, no Albanian. So if you call an Albanian linguist, I am sure that they would be able to describe and to explain to you the meaning of this sentence in Albanian.
You are suggesting that to a question, was the witness Serbian, you replied no Albanian to mean that there were no Albanian witnesses. This is what you are suggesting.
This is what I'm saying. Not Albanian. They were Serbian, not Albanian. This is what I'm saying. So this is the answer that I've given. This is shown in the context, and this is clear. If I would go for Albanians, if I'd say yes, there were Albanians, I would have said yes, Albanians. But I've said not Albanians.
I would like to show you from the same interview, page 6 of this transcript. I am referring to the sentence one moment. I'm referring to the sentence where you were asked what is the content of them, of these files. And you replied, as we always said, the special court is collaborating with the Serbian prosecutor and is taking statements in Serbia and collaborating with witnesses, so-called Albanian speakers, who have been during that time and currently on the Serbian side. So the court is working with Albanian speakers, the ones that do not have the best interest of this country in mind, and the KLA. Aren't you referring here, Mr. Gucati, to Albanian witnesses, and in order to cast doubt on the loyalty of these witnesses, you refer to them as so-called Albanian speakers?
Can I speak?
Are you referring to Albanian witnesses, and are you using the terms Albanian speakers in order to cast doubts on their loyalty to the country and to the KLA?
Therefore, I cannot refer to someone that has committed massacres in Jakova, that has raped thousands of girls and women in Kosovo, and this is why I have said whatever I've said. I have referred to the person that I mentioned before. This is something that is public, and all the Albanian opinion knows this person. This is the reason why I have formulated my answer in this way in the public television of Kosovo.
And Mr. Gucati, in the moment when you delivered the documents to those in attendance at the 7th press conference, you wanted everyone to know that there were witness statements in this batch, didn't you?
Jo, s'është e vërtet. Ne kemi dorë
No, that is not true. We wanted to show the public at large in Kosovo, but also to our international friends. We wanted to let them know that the KLA-WVA at least is right in opposing the special chambers. So the special chambers that have been voted by the Parliament of Kosovo, by the MPs that are voted by the people, this special chamber has to be Kosovo's chamber, and that is not the approach that we went for it, in the sense that I mean, in our opinion at least, you should not collaborate with these witnesses. I mean, these are witnesses that we are not interested in from 20 years, and we know that there were witnesses there from all the ethnicities. What we were interested in too was the fact that the special chambers collaborated with the Serbian courts, and that is something that was of interest to both myself and my friends, and that's the reason why we've made that public.
To the public in the course of the press conference that the documents that you were making available to those in attendance contained witness statements, names and interviews, didn't you?
asnjë mediumi si kam thonë që merre këtu.
I have not told any media outlets to search for the names of witnesses into the documents. I mean, that's something that I've never said. In no TV features, in no outlets. It's true that I've said that these are documents with a log number from the specialist chambers. And what I've said is that it's true that the specialist chambers collaborates with Vladimir Vukcevic and other persons in Serbia. That's true. So the reason for that was to show the public opinion what the chambers are doing.
In the course of the first press conference, did you make the public aware that the documents you were sharing contained witness interviews? Yes or no?
Nderuar zonë, unë po them,
I'm telling you that we have said in the first conference, in the second conference, and in the third conference as well, that these documents are leaked from the specialist chambers and they have collaborated with the Serbian authorities. When questions were asked by the journalists, we said that there are documents there, but the fact is that the privacy of persons is protected in Kosovo as privacy is protected in every other country. So everybody will have to bear their responsibility if the names of witnesses were to be disclosed. That's what I've said, and this is what I'm telling you now.
And in the course of this press conference, did you say that the documents that you were sharing with those in attendance included witness statements and interviews? Did you say that, yes or no?
nëse keni kuptuar, nëse përkthyesja ka përkthyes.
I don't know whether you understood me, because the interpreters have been interpreting very well. But we have told the media in the press conference, I mean, there was this question by the journalists on whether there are names and statements. We've said that there are names and statements, and we've told them that the privacy of persons have to be protected, and that's the answer that we have given to the journalists. I mean, this is what I'm telling you.
In relation now to the second batch of documents that you distributed to those in attendance of the second press conference, did you know, Mr. Guzzati, that these materials contained also communication between the SITF and Serbian authorities, exactly as the first batch. Is this correct?
Radimo sam ga interesuo.
No, I wasn't interested on the contents of package number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. Should they have arrived, in fact? But what I was interested in was that your own prosecutor has admitted that these were your documents. My main goal was to make the public opinion and the international friends who have helped us that the KSC has been cooperating with the Serbs. Even 50 packages, should they have arrived, I would have displayed exactly the same thing. I would have read the statements. I wouldn't. Witnesses have come here to give their testimony. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it, but I haven't been interested in that kind of thing, no.
Guzzati, but was not an answer to my question. My question is the following. When you reviewed the second batch of documents that was delivered to the KLA War Veteran Association, did you see that among these materials there were also communication between the SITF and the Serbian authorities, exactly as in the first batch? Is this correct?
Maybe you're asking the question very well and I'm not understanding it, but I'm sincerely saying that I wasn't interested. I was interested in the first delivery, which suggested that you were cooperating with the Serbian court. It is true that the second package has had documentation to suggest that you were cooperating with it, but I, as I say, I was not interested any further. Even if we were to receive 60 packages, it would be the same. You have proved this with the first package and with the second package. Had that not been your documentation, I wouldn't be here in jail. You wouldn't have brought me before this tribunal. Your cooperation has been very close. You have thanked the Serbian court for the cooperation that they have extended. That is genuine. I have seen it.
Ask you, from now on, please, to try to listen carefully to the question and try to answer to the specific question. Do I understand correctly that you knew at the time of the second press conference that the second batch contained communications between the SITF and Serbian authorities, exactly as the first batch? Is this correct or no? Please give a yes or no answer.
I don't know what to say further to what I said earlier. Forgive me, the answer remains the same. I apologize. If you understand me correctly, what I said, I have no reply.
Did you know or you didn't know that the second batch of documents contained communication between the SITF and Serbian authorities? Please answer just with a yes or a no, without a preamble. Yes or no?
The same as the first package. Second package, third package, and so on has shown that you have been cooperating with the Serbian courts. I don't know what else to add.
Can I ask, Your Honor, to direct the accused, please, to answer to the question that has been put to him?
I will, Mr. Guzzati. She asked you a very direct question that called for a yes or a no. Or you could say, I don't. Just a second, Mr. Rees. Or you could say you don't know. You can say you don't know. but you cannot give a non-responsive answer. It's yes or no. Now, Mr. Rees. It was
Yes,
a very
no,
direct
yes,
question.
no, or don't know are the three
That's fine.
potential
If he
answers,
doesn't
not
know, he
yes
doesn't
or
know.
no.
That's fine. Now, you can answer yes, no, or I don't know.
Your Honor, I'm not trying to evade my responsibility or the question for that matter. I'm not scared. What I suggested is that the answer is between the lines in there. As I was saying, all the packages, the first, second, and third, all are testimony to cooperation with Serbs.
It's yes, no, or I don't know.
In the room.
Your Honor, I apologize. I think I am answering correctly. I think the interpreter is interpreting me correctly. What I said about the first package, that there was cooperation with the Serbs, is true of the second package too.
I take it as a yes.
Thank you.
And besides documents concerning communication between the SIDF and the Serbian authorities, did you notice any other kind of documents in the second batch, Mr. Gucati?
Jo, sincerist.
No, frankly not. I did not check. I wasn't interested in looking at it in detail, no. I haven't checked through them. I frankly say so. It was put at the it was put before the media, but neither I nor my friends have been looking beyond the first or second page, and I sincerely say so. I have not looked at their contacts. Rest assured.
Course of the examination in chief, Mr. Gucati, you stated to the council that you had noticed that there were documents concerning the Limai trial before the ICTY. Do you maintain that?
A to komt ono da
I reiterated that today when I said that there were documents from the ICTY having to do with the Lima and Haradinaj case. But I can't remember in which package I saw that. I said yesterday and today that there was documents pertaining to Fatmir Lima and Haradinaj. But I can't recall on whether that was on the first, second or third package. I don't want to lie here.
And in the course of the second press conference, Mr. Gucati, you chose to show to the press precisely some of the communications between the SIDF and Serbian authorities of all the documents you had in front of you. Is this correct?
We put the documents on the table during the news conference and we said these were documents from the KSC which show cooperation. That's what I said.
You did attract the attention of the press in the course of the second press conference to communication between the SIDF and the Serbian authorities. Do you recall that?
Your Honour, the press conferences were recorded in full, and we have both the recording and the transcript. I do submit that it's unfair to keep asking Mr. Gucati what his recollection is of three conferences dating back to September last year, when we know exactly what he said or didn't say, because we have recordings of them. If there's a specific part of the recordings that Ms. Bellici wishes to put to Mr. Gucati, she's welcome to do that, and she should do it.
Thank you, Mr. Rees. Go ahead, Ms. Bellici.
Thank you. Your Honor, just...
that was an objection, Your Honour.
Objection's overruled. Go ahead, Ms. Bellici.
Thank you. Mr. Gucati, in the course of the second press conference, of the many documents that were contained in the second batch, you decided to show to those in attendance some documents concerning the cooperation between the SITF and Serbian Prosecution Office. Is this correct?
Everything they said has been recorded. You can replay it here if you have the video.
Witness the exhibit P0002, which is a video of the second press conference, and relevant part, the timestamp is between minutes 00:00:50 to 00:01:06. This corresponds to the English transcript. No problem. This corresponds to the English transcript P00:00:2 ET, and it's the second and third paragraph. And it's a confidential exhibit. Yeah.
Ms. Bolici, I've been advised that we are in public session, and if when you play this video, the sound will go out, but not the vision.
Yeah, Your Honor, this particular excerpt contains nothing confidential as long as the video can stop at 00:01:06. If we could pause on that screenshot when we arrive to that point, until that moment there is nothing confidential.
Are we okay with that, Madam Court Officer? Okay, go ahead.
So it's from 00:00:50 to 00:01:06.
Two or three pages that I have in front of me, 2 or 3 pages, which are in the Serbian language. You can very well see them. And then this one in the English language, which attests to cooperation.
Mr. Gucati, do you agree that of the many documents that you had in front of you in the course of the second press conference, you chose to show communication between the SITF and Serbian Prosecution Office, both in English and in Serbian, in your words, attesting the cooperation between the two institutions?
It's absolutely true that I did show all 3 documents in order to convince public opinion that the specialist chambers cooperates with and collaborates with the Serbian court. I've said it time and time again. I'm not hiding anything. I said it yesterday, I'm saying it today. It is true that these documents are proof of the reality of your collaboration with the Serbian court. I'm not against the justice as such, but I'm coming from a country where there has been no justice as such, but I am against the KSC. I am an idol of the course of justice, but it is true what you see here, that I did say that the KSC collaborates with the Serbian courts. I don't see anything wrong in here. I'm admitting it publicly that these are genuine documents that prove collaboration between the KSC and the Serbian courts.
The same kind of documents that you had seen in the first batch, in the documents that were delivered on the 7th of September. Is this correct?
Αυτό nuk kam i sigurt.
I'm not certain, so I wouldn't hazard a guess here on whether these were the same documents in package 1 and package 2. As I said, I haven't checked them in detail. When I saw them in front of me on the table, they came to my notice and I made them public. These 3 documents, that is. It's only after I sat down where I saw them and made them public. I cannot deny this. It's true.
Have the same layout of the letters that you had seen in the first batch delivered on the 7th of September. Is this correct?
The layout, the paper is the same. The SITF is seal is the same. The Serbian one is the same. I don't know the English. I wasn't able to read because I don't know the English. So I'm not aware of the contents. I don't know whether that is identical to the information that we saw in the first package.
The nature of the documents was fairly similar to what you had seen in the first batch. Is this correct?
Is the paper blue, white, or black? It's white. It's the same. The signatures are the same. The seals are the same. Contents I don't know.
Now, the documents that you chose to show to the press in the course of the second press conference, they have nothing to do with the Limay trial, do they?
Sincerisht nuk jam.
I'm not sure about it, frankly speaking. My main goal, as I'm repeating time and time again, was to suggest that KSE collaborates with the Serbian court, whether it was from the Lima case or from some other person, X, Y, or Z. I don't know. My main goal was to suggest there that you're collaborating with the Serbian court. That's it.
You said earlier that you referred to the Limay trial at the ICTY. Is this correct?
I said the same yesterday and today. I saw documents from the War Crimes Tribunal against the former Yugoslavia. I saw documents that came from the case of Fatmi Limay and Ramush Haradinaj. I think they date back to 2004, 5 or 2007. That's what they said.
The press in the course of the second press conference. These are not documents from the ICTY, are they?
As I said, I did not carry out the forensic examination of the documents. All that I was keen to notice there was the seal and the signature of the KSE and the seal and the signature of the Serbian court. The contents were of no relevance to me.
It's from SITF and Serbian authorities. Is this correct?
Yes, that's true. These 3 papers that you see there, it's true. I can't deny it.
You didn't look at the content, so you had no idea whether this referred to the Limay trial or not, did you?
Rest assured that I have not read them. I do not understand English. I never learned English. I can't claim to know English when I don't. Even in the detention unit, I have an interpreter on call all the time. So I have not read it. I don't understand the language. Rest assured about it. I'm answering in all sincerity. But what I wanted to see was that the specialist chambers that has been voted on by Parliament collaborates with the Serbian courts.
Sadi, I would like to refer you to paragraph 37 of your statement, where you stated, I saw some Serbian documents and Serbian signs within the documents, but these were already public and were in relation to old cases relating to Fatmir Limaj. You didn't have, the documents that you showed to the press did not refer to the Fatmir Limaj trial, Mr. Gucati. Is this statement inaccurate in paragraph 37 of your declaration?
Unë deklarova
As I said earlier, I saw documents relating to Fatmir Limaj. I have not denied it. I'm repeating the same. I have seen documents related to Fatmir Limaj. I cannot deny that. I cannot come here to lie and then say that I haven't seen the documents, where the case is that I have seen the documents that relate to Fatmir Limaj.
Which showed Serbian signs. This didn't have anything to do with the Fatmir Limaj case, did they?
rajtë së më kujtojnë.
I can't recall on whether that was with Serbian documents with Serbian signs or with the KSC signs. So I can't say. But in general, I want to repeat that I have seen documents that relate to Mr. Fatmir Limaj.
Documents that you have shown to the press, the documents with the Serbian signs, you were aware that they didn't relate to the Fatmir Limaj case and that they were not already public, as you state in paragraph 37 of your statement. Did you, Mr. Gucati?
Thash nuk unë kujtojnë.
I said I can't recall having seen them, but that could very well be the case. If I said that, just replay the tape and I'll admit if it's in evidence there. I'm not someone who would deny what I've said earlier. What I've said is that I've seen documents of the court related to Fatmir Limaj. Those are quite a few documents in there, but there were a few documents that relate to the case of Fatmir Limaj when he was before a court of justice.
Serbian documents that did not relate to the case of Fatmir Limaj and that they were not already public in the framework of the Fatmir Limaj case. Is this correct?
If I recall correctly, I have always said that there were documents pertaining to Fatmir Limaj, and they were already public. The case against Fatmir Limaj was held in public, so there was absolutely nothing new that I had to add with the Fatmir Limaj case. There was nothing I had to add on a case that finished 10 or 15 years ago. So that was of no relevance to me. We are aware of the verdict in his case, which was the just and righteous one.
The verdict in the Fatmir Limaj case, Mr. Gucati?
No, I haven't read it. There was no need to read it. I know that he was acquitted. There was no need to read it.
In the Fatmir Limaj case?
That took years and years. I have followed a few on TV. I haven't been here in person. I didn't have a passport to be able to travel here at the time, but through the media, through the TVs I have, but not live as such.
The time the proceedings in the Ramush-Haradinaj case at the ICTY.
Every citizen in Kosovo has been interested in following these cases. Every veteran of the KLA has been interested. I don't know why you're asking this question. Yes, I have followed it. I have not attended all the sessions because I work. I had a small child at the time and I had to look after my family. But in the meantime, I have followed quite a few of those, yes.
And you were watching the trial in the Haradinaj case as it was broadcasted online, did you?
Unë nuk e di çfarë
I don't know what the relevance is of this one, but frankly speaking, yes, I have followed the Haradinaj case. It was a painful case for us. It's the brother of two martyrs who have contributed a lot to our country and to our nation. We have followed some of the sessions, but not all the time, because I had other business to attend to. I had my family to look after, so I had no time to follow every single session of the trial. But whenever I had the time, yes, I did.
And coming back to paragraph 37 of your statement, Mr. Gucati, you state here that there were some public documents concerning the Fatmir Limaj case. And you state that these documents were already public. Do you agree, Mr. Gucati, that the documents that you have shown to the press in the course of the second press conference had nothing to do with the Fatmir Limaj case, and therefore your statement here is inaccurate? Do you agree?
Unë nuk e di si
I don't know why we're talking about that. Limaj had absolutely no relevance to the case. Even if I were to talk about that Limaj, there's nothing wrong with it. I said there were a few documents. I said I have seen some documents with Serbian signs, but these were already public. This was public. The whole documentation from a public trial was public. So there's nothing secret here. There's nothing unknown. And the Fatmir Limaj case was of no relevance, given it belonged to the past.
Shown to the press had nothing to do with the Fatmir Limaj case. Is this correct? Yes or no?
përbes nuk më kujtohet.
I can't recall, I swear, but it may well be the case. It's about 16 months that I'm here in detention, so memory might have played its own tricks. But if it's true, you just replay the tape, and I'll admit what I said.
Video that I just played to you, and I don't intend to go back to that. I think it's a good moment for a break, Your Honor, if it's fine with the trial panel.
All right, we will take our mid-morning break. Mr. Cadman, I see your hand up. If you have something you want to say.
Your Honor, it was just a question in relation to whether the court, whether the trial panel will be issuing a decision today on the appeal point. We just need to know when the 10 days for submitting the appeal that Mr. Rees mentioned, that the prosecution mentioned earlier, when the 10 days start to run. So just wondering whether we will get a decision today.
I can't promise it today, but I think we can have something by tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you.
Say before we leave this, the letters or the document that's referred to in the video is addressed in the statement of paragraph 36, immediately above paragraph 37 of the statement. I agree it is time for a break, but I do think it's fair, if there is cross-examination on the statement, for the statement to be dealt with in context.
I'm sorry.
I apologize. The cross-examination was on paragraph 37 of the statement and on the specific contents of that part.
Paragraph 37 is preceded by paragraph 36.
Counsel will have an opportunity to address that in the course of the re-examination, I believe.
I would agree with that statement. You will have an opportunity to bring it up and re-exam if you wish. We will break now, be back at 11:30. Thank you.
All rise. All rise.
Be seated. Ms. Bolici, you may continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Guzzati, you told us before the break that you were aware that batch 2, the documents that were delivered to the KLA World Veteran Association on the 16th of September, contained correspondence between the SITF and Serbian authorities. Now, you were present when the SPO officers on the 17th of September requested the handover of the documents of batch 2. Is this correct?
Yes, it's correct.
By the time you handed over the documents to the SPO officer on the 17th of September, you had already distributed to those in attendance of the second press conference most of the documents that you had received on the 16th of September. Is this correct?
De facto, documentațiune.
De facto, we did not distribute any information. What we did is that we had this press conference and we put the documents in the desk, in the table. We didn't tell anyone, just go and get the documents.
Your Honor, if I may apologize, I didn't hear the question just because I didn't have the answer because I didn't have the headphones. If the could you please repeat your answer, Mr. Guzzati? I didn't get it. I have the transcript, yeah.
Pas problème.
I can do that, no problem. De facto, we had this press conference on the 17th, and all the documents were put there on the table. We didn't tell to any of the journalists, take the documents. We didn't tell to anyone to take the documents, so this is what happened.
Those in attendance at the second press conference did take most of the documents that you had made available to them. Are you aware of that, Mr. Guzzati, aren't you?
I don't know how many documents they have received. I know that they have received some, but like I said, I don't know exactly how many they have received.
To show to Mr. Guzzati, the transcript, which is exhibit P0004ET, side by side with the P000480, and this is public. And I would like to refer to page 2. It's a mistake from my side. I apologize. Just a moment. It's page 3, please. You stated this is a interview that you gave to the journalist in attendance and the KLA War Veteran Association on the 17th of September 2020, together with Mr. Tomegashi, right after the SPO officer had requested the handover of the documents. And you stated in front of the camera, as we have been advised by lawyer Tomegashi, lawyer Tome, we handed over the documentation today. You, the media, have received over 70% of the documentation. You, the media, received them yesterday. Some more was received by the media today as well. Do you agree, Mr. Guzzati, that by the time the SPO officer received the documents on the 17th of September, you had already distributed to the media over 70% of the documentation in your possession? Do you?
Kjo është një konferencë shumë e rrallë.
This is a realistic press conference. It happened before or in front of my office, but I have not distributed any information. I haven't told any journalist to go and take some documents or don't go and don't take any documents. So the documents were there on my desk, and whoever wanted they took, and they have taken pictures as well. This is true. I said that 70% of the documents have already been received, but I didn't ever tell anyone to go and take some documents.
So 70% of the documents were received by the press that you had made available to the press in the course of the second press conference on the table. Is this correct?
I haven't given any documents to anyone. Whoever wanted to receive the documents, they did so. It's true that I have said approximately 70%, because I can't tell for a fact. I have said approximately 70%. That's what I've said. But on another note, I've never told any of the journalists to go upstairs and fetch the documents. I have not said that to any journalist or any media outlet. This is the truth.
Part of the documentation was distributed to the media not only on the 16th of September, but also on the 17th of September. This is what you state here when you say you, the media, received them yesterday. Some more was received by the media today as well. Is this correct, Mr. Guzzati?
That's correct. It's true. The media received documents on the 16th and on the 17th as well, but I've never told anyone go and take some documents from the table. Whoever was interested, they took some documents, but it's not that I have guided or I've told anyone to go and get the documents.
And on the 17th, how did the media receive the documents? Where did they come and take the documents?
On
the 17th, they came when they saw the investigators of the office coming in my office. And those documents were received in the presence of your investigators. And I'm talking about the investigator that spoke Albanian language in particular.
My question was different, Mr. Guzzati. You stated here that the media received documents both on the 16th of September and on the 17th of September. As to the 16th of September, you told us that you had placed the documents on the table at the press conference and the media took what they wanted. My question concerns the 17th, the following day. The following day, how did the media receive part of the documents concerning batch 2? Where and when?
I'm talking about the 17th of September. I was at a meeting with your inspector, your investigator that spoke Albanian, and media were there in the corridor. The corridor was full of media. So the media was present in the building, and probably they went there and they took some pictures of the documents. And this is what the statement of your investigator who spoke Albanian said. And I've told before the media that you have received about 70% of the documents, and that's what has happened. This is what I'm telling you as well. I told the investigator, go and get the documents upstairs, because otherwise the media would take them all. And this is why I told the media that you, the media, have received about 70% of the documents. And that's something that I'm attesting in front of you today.
Yes, the documents were still in your office, available for the media to take pages of them. Is this correct?
This is not for me to be blamed. I'm not to be blamed for that, because I have asked the investigators of the special court, of the special chambers, to defend, to protect the facility, the building, and to take care of the documents, because they didn't come on the 16th, but they came on the 17th, and the media had already taken some documents. And it's not that I was defending those documents. The truth is that those documents were on the table. It was not our task to protect those documents.
In the documents, is this correct?
To be honest with you, I was in my office. I didn't see them while they went upstairs to take the documents. But even if I were there, I would have not stopped them, because they were there to take pictures of the documents. And I believe it was the same media that was at the building on the 16th of September.
Mr. Guzzati, you knew that the SITF SPO documents in the first and second batch that you made available to the media were confidential. Is this correct?
To be honest, I did not know that up until very late, but I have said it before, and I wish to say it again, that I didn't see it fit for us to protect those documents. Those documents were not ours.
I would like to show you, Mr. Guzzati, exhibit number P00059 ET alongside with P00059 AT. If we could please enlarge a little the Albanian version. This is a Facebook post, Mr. Guzzati, posted on the 21st of September 2020 on the Facebook profile isni.guzzati and signed with your name and surname and the title Chairman of the KLA War Veteran Association. If we could scroll to the third page of the Albanian version to show the signature. The fourth page. Yes. Could we please enlarge toward the last part of the post? Is this your post, Mr. Guzzati?
Yes, that's my posting.
Publish it on your Facebook profile, correct?
If in the 21st century I am not allowed to express myself freely, I think that you have to tell me, because I think that, like everyone else, every citizen, I have to express my opinion freely. So this is my opinion, and that is something that the honored judges can read in the English language, I believe.
Publish it on your Facebook profile, is this correct?
Yes, it is correct, I said that.
Thank you. If we look at page 081985 on both the Albanian and the English version. Please. Toward the end of the first paragraph, it reads, "The files handed over to us contain correspondence between Serbia and the Specialist Chamber. This is evidence, and you do not need to be an expert in the field for this." I would like to show you now on page 0. One moment. On the same page, towards one moment. Just a moment, Your Honor, I apologize. I've lost the reference. Just a moment. Yeah. So on the same page, right after the sentence that I just read, it reads, "In addition, with regard to the leaking of these documents and correspondence between Serbia and the specialist chambers against the KLA, any question as to which one of them leaked the very confidential and sensitive documents for process underway in Kosovo should be addressed to the Special War Crimes Court of Serbia and the specialist chambers based in The Hague." Now, you define the documents as very confidential and sensitive documents. You had realized, Mr. Gucati, didn't you, that these documents were sensitive and very confidential, didn't you?
This is what I understood after your investigators came to us.
At the time when you looked at the documents on the 7th and on the 16th of September, had you seen before any such documents in the public domain?
Are you talking about the 7th of September? Can you please repeat the question again?
September, when you first saw the documents, were these documents that you had seen before anywhere in the public domain?
I had never ever thought in my life that I would see these documents in my office. No, I've never seen them before the 7th of September. This was a dream. So when these documents came in our office, it was a real dream. And the answer to your question is no. I have never heard about these documents and I have not seen them before the 7th of September.
Were not available to the public until that time, were they?
Këto dokumente që kanë në zyrën tonë,
The documents that we received in our offices, I mean, I have not any knowledge. I don't have any knowledge about these documents. I have not seen them before the 7th of September.
And why was it a dream to receive such documents, Mr. Guzzati? Mr. Guzzati, you stated earlier, when I received the documents, this was a dream for me. Why was it a dream to receive such documents?
s'kisha besu me mbason dikur
It was unbelievable. If I were told by someone that documents would leak from the special chambers, I would not believe that. And this is my stance even to this day. I mean, how is it possible that these documents have leaked from you? It can be a madness or a trap from your office. I don't know what it is, really.
Mr. Guzzati, on the 17th of September, you were served by the SP officers with an order for seizures of the documents. Is this correct?
po hetuesi që
Yes, the investigator speaking Albanian, because he was speaking to me in Albanian all the time, he addressed myself and said, Mr. Chairman, we have come here to receive those documents. So first he said that we will look into these documents to see on whether these are our documents, and if that's the case, we will receive those documents. And I told him, you can go upstairs, look at the documents, and then take a decision for yourself. This is what he did. He went upstairs, he took photos of those documents. This is what my colleagues told me, because I didn't accompany him upstairs. He came back to my office. He told me that these are documents and we are going to receive them. And I said, that's okay, so go and receive the documents. And we drafted the handover report accordingly. This is what has happened.
Officer delivered you a judicial order for seizure and non further disclosure of these documents.
t'jemi sinqert si këtu mund të gaboj.
To be honest with you, I don't remember. I know that there was the handover working papers, that there is a document that has been signed to that end. About this order you're talking about, I don't know. So if I've signed that judicial order, I would accept that, but I don't remember. Because too many people were there, we were having too many people around, the media were there, we were under pressure, so I can't remember, I can't tell.
I'd like to show to the witness a brief excerpt of a video. Is P0004. It's public, and the relevant parts are from the beginning until second 12, and the corresponding parts of the transcript are P0004 ET page 1.
Public?
Public.
Me dokument original që
This is an authentic document, and there is a document from the Specialist Chambers of Kosovo or the Hague Court. Otherwise, we wouldn't have received them.
Here, Mr. Guzzati, you and Tome Gasci are showing to the camera the judicial order that was just notified to you minutes before by the SP officer, together with the handover form that you signed. Is this correct?
Sorry, can I ask Ms. Perici to confirm the language of the two documents, please?
We can enlarge the picture, if you like, and I'm going to show the witness also the actual documents in a moment, if I'm allowed. Could we please enlarge the picture, Ms. Court Officers? Satisfied, Mr. Gucati, Mr. Rees?
Identify the language, please.
The first page that we can see on the screen, it's an English order, Mr. Rees. And Mr. Gucati, you knew at this point in time that the order that you received from the SPO officers and that you are showing to the camera stated that there could be no further distribution or copying of the SITF SPO documents that you had received. Is this correct?
No, it's not. So on the left-hand side, there is the handover document. On the right-hand side, there is this document in the English language. And I was told that this document is in order for other chambers to collect the documents. I mean, this is what was confirmed to me. I am confident, I'm positive that this is what I was told to me. So the document on the left hand of Tom is the handover report, whereas the document that he is holding on the right hand has been confirmed to me, because like I've been telling you, I don't know English. But I was told that this is an order by the specialist chambers to collect such documents.
You were told by this point in time that this order included a prohibition to further dissemination and disclosure of the documents. Were you not?
I don't know who told me, because your investigator spoke Albanian. He only told me that it's not good. I mean, whatever happened is not good. I have not signed this document. If you have this document signed by myself, it's good to show that to the honors, to the judges. I have signed every document that have been brought to my attention, I have signed them. So my signature is in the document that is being held on the left hand. And you can see my first name, my last name, Icdy Gucati, and my signature in this document.
To show to the witness the transcript on the same exhibit on page 8 of the transcript. And I would like to, if we could put please on the screen also the Albanian version of the transcript, also on page 8. Now, you stated in front of the cameras in this very occasion, they address me in the summons. Here it is written, saying only that the multiplication cannot be done, as well as their distribution. It says it cannot be done. You stated in front of the camera that the order stated that the multiplication and distribution of the documents cannot be done. Didn't you, Mr. Gucati?
This is what I said before as well. Your investigator told us, please don't multiply and don't distribute those documents. That is something that he has said orally to us. We have told to him that we have no interest into multiplying documents, we have no interest into, and the real thing is that we have not photocopied any material. And your investigator told us that it's good not to mention statements and not to mention names. This is what your investigator, the one that spoke Albanian, told us. And we have respected everything that was suggested to us.
Reported, indeed, in the course of this interview, that the investigators had told you so. And then you said, this is what they addressed me in the summons. Here it is written, saying only that the multiplication cannot be done as well as the distribution. It says it cannot be done. Aren't referring you here about what is written in the order that you are showing in front of the camera in that very moment, Mr. Gucati?
No, that was an oral order. I haven't seen that in writing. Your investigator, the one who spoke Albanian, when we were having coffee tete-a-tete, in the presence of another person, a third party. I don't know whether he was an interpreter or not. Faton was there, Tom was there. So that was all done orally. If it had been in writing, I would have remembered to. I know what documents look like. I know what a handover document looks like and the signature that it needs and so on and so forth. But this was said to me orally.
Mr. Gucati, you are in front of the camera showing a court order that you just received. You speak about what is written in the summons. You say that what is written there is that documents cannot be multiplied and distributed. It's your position today that while you were saying that what is written there is that documents cannot be distributed, you were actually referring to something else. Is this your testimony today?
I've been saying the same yesterday, today, and I'll say it all along. Your investigator said that the photocopying and distribution is strictly banned. This was not in writing. The documentation in writing was to do with the handover. So on the left hand of Tom there, you can see the document that relates to the handover.
Yeah. Mr. Gucati, after receiving the order on the 17th of September, you received a further batch of materials with official stamps from the SPO on the 22nd of September 2020. Is this the case, Mr. Gucati?
Before I move on to answer this question, let me just be clear to say that I was given an order. I was not given an order. I was given a document that has to do with the seizure of documents on the part of your investigator. On the date of the 22nd, yes, that is correct. The third batch arrived then.
Mr. Gucati, as you went back to the order, you told us that the investigator told you that the documents should not be distributed. And in front of the camera, you said that what is written there is that multiplication cannot be done. When you say what is written there is that multiplication cannot be done, are you still referring to what the investigator said? Or are you referring instead to the order that you had in front of you that you understood very well to mean that further dissemination of these materials was not allowed?
It's what was told to me already, not what was written. I said, I am thanking him for the work he has done, the behavior towards us. Whilst, as far as the batch of the 22nd, yes, it did arrive. It wasn't voluminous. It was a document which was chucked into the corridor.
I would like to show you, Mr. Guzzati, exhibit P00053AT. This is public. Side by side, please, with the P00053.
You begin by setting out the dates of both the English and the Albanian translations, please.
17th of September 2020.
And the dates of the Albanian? 18th of September.
18th of September 2020, yes. Mr. Guzzati, is this the order that you received on the 17th of September 2020?
Well, couldn't be the Albanian.
Yes.
So if the question could be specific, please.
Yes. The order on the right side of the screen, is this the order that you received on the 17th of September 2020?
This is the order authorizing a seizure of documentation. This is not an order over some ban or what. This is a decision authorizing a seizure of documents, and that's what it means.
This order to mean you reported it to the cameras that day, didn't you?
We understood this order to mean that we were to hand over the documentation. And that is what occurred. They came and took possession of the documentation. We understood that to be an order to hand over documents.
Of this press conference that you heard with Tom Gashi, you reported to the press, you described to the press what the contents of this order were, didn't you?
I cannot recall. If you have a recording of it, please play it out. All I remember is that the specialist investigators came and had that conversation with us and reported exactly what I recall.
Stated in front of the cameras, it reflects accurately what you understood at the time this order to mean.
I understood that to be a document on the seizure of documents. That's how I understood it to be, and that's what I said. And that's what I'm saying today.
What you said in front of the camera is what you understood the order to mean. Is this correct?
As it's written here, all I said was that we had been ticked off orally, not in writing. I do not understand the English language, but each document that I've signed is available. If you have it available, please put it up.
Mr. Guzzati, we'll refer to the transcript for what it reads. Now, moving to the 22nd of September 2020. You agreed that on the 22nd you received a further batch of materials with official stamps of the SPO. Is this correct?
Yes, I was in the office. A gentleman came and chucked the documents into the corridors. It wasn't a package as such. It was just a small bundle. It was chucked. You can see that. You can see the transcript. You can see the video. It is easy to see him emerging out of the lift and chucking them into the corridor.
you looked at the documents together with Mr. Nazim Haradinaj, Mr. Faton Klinaku, and the other members of the KLA War Veteran Association Committee. You realized that the documents described possible charges against SPO accused, didn't you?
Po.
Yes.
Did you realize that the document included names of witnesses who provided evidence to the SPO, didn't you?
Jo dëshmitarës
No, I saw no names of witnesses, neither did I check for them.
I would like Mr. Guzzati to show the transcript of the third press conference, which is P0003580, page 1, side by side with P0003580, page 1. If you don't mind, the court officer, to put the redacted version on screen. Towards the, in the second last paragraph, the last sentence, you stated during the third press conference, there are various people, various names in here whom we are not authorized to disclose. Which names of people you are not authorized to disclose you are referring to, Mr. Guzzati, in this excerpt?
Excuse me, you're asking him to release names that are protected.
I'm not asking for names, I'm asking for the category. Okay.
You asked for names.
Okay. What are you referring to when you state
Now,
there are various names in
sorry,
here that we are not...
Can I raise an objection?
Yes.
I have no issue with the prosecution asking this question. But I do have an issue if Mr. Guzzati is not entitled to answer freely and properly. Otherwise, he's been put in a position that is impossible for him. If the question's been asked, he ought to be entitled to answer fully. Or Ms. Bellucci needs to think of a different way of dealing with this topic.
That's what she was trying to do. But perhaps you should, if you really need these names, perhaps we should do it in private session.
I am not asking for names, I'm just asking for a clarification. When he says there are various people, various names in here that we are not authorized to disclose, to which category of people he is referring to?
Then you'll have to phrase the question that way. Do you understand, Mr. Guzzati, we're not asking you to give names? Do you understand that? All right, thank you.
Yeah. So, Mr. Guzzati, without mentioning specific names, how did you know that there were names in these documents that could not be disclosed?
po shumë reale që
I did not disclose any names, that is true. It is equally true what's written here, that there are various names, various figures whose names we are not authorized to disclose. We said exactly the same thing at the time. I'm repeating it today. And what we said is that it would be best for the prosecutions and the special prosecutors and specialist chambers to release, to find out who's leaking these documents. It's best to confine your question into exactly what I said in there. I said there are different figures, different names which we're not authorized to disclose. it would be best for this to be investigated by the prosecutors and the international prosecutors. It would be better for the person who brought these documents to be investigated. If I sincerely say here that I have not seen any names, but I've seen a mention of different kinds of statements.
Various names that we are not authorized to disclose. Are you referring to witness names that you are not authorized to disclose?
Yok, jag kan kämpa.
It was a draft. A draft charge sheet, which emerged in the 6 months or so. I hadn't seen any names. If I'd seen the names, I would have been able to mention them in a private session.
And when you say there are various names in here whom we are not authorized to disclose, are you referring to names of witnesses, or to what else are you referring to?
If I recall correctly, I have not mentioned names of witnesses. I said that I have not been authorized. I think the text is available in English for you to read. I've said there are names. I have not specified if there were names of witnesses or people being accused. I've said there are names. I did not go any further. I said I'm not authorized to mention any names, any texts, any statements, or anything of the sort.
You stated that you were not authorized to mention witness names. This is what you meant, Mr. Gucati, isn't it?
I did not say witness names. That's not what's written. You can read it in its entirety. I said there were names, but they did not specify on whether they were names of witnesses or accused people. I've said there are various names. That's what I said. I said there were various names which I'm not authorized to disclose because the law prohibits me from doing so.
And Mr. Gucati, I will refer to the following page of the transcript, and this is page 2. It's also redacted. This is Mr. Haradinaj talking. And on the bottom of the page, it says, we consulted the lawyer and he told us that with the exception of the names mentioned here, there are names here on the basis of which they have raised the indictments. Is it true, Mr. Gucati, that the names that you thought you were not authorized to disclose were the names of witnesses that were mentioned in the documents that you had in front of you?
I don't know where you're reading this from. Can you point it out to me? Do you mean Mr. Haradinaj's words, or...?
In the course of the press conference, when you were sitting next to Mr. Haradinaj, he refers here to names on the basis of which they have raised, the indictments. And he says that these are names that you, the KLA World Veteran Association, were not authorized to disclose. Right before you had said, there are various people, various names in here, whom we are not authorized to disclose. Aren't both you talking about the prohibition to disclose witness names.
Your Honour, can Ms. Barici direct Mr. Guzzati to the relevant passage on the page? He has asked, and I can't find it.
Please refer to which paragraph.
Yes.
And then you'll have to give him an opportunity to read it.
Yeah. It's within the paragraphs that starts with 000654 to 001028 on the bottom of page 2 within the two black marks. Now there are no line numbers, so I cannot direct you to the specific line.
Have you found that, Mr. Guzzati?
00654 a është kjo?
00654, is that the one?
Look at the third period, Mr. Guzzati, right after third period.
For the English translation to be moved down so that we can follow it.
The English transcript starts on the last line of page 2 and follows on the first line of page 3, while in the Albanian version, it's all on page 2. But I can assist by reading again the sentence. The sentence I'm referring to is the following. There are names here on the base of which they have raised those, on the base of which they have raised the indictments. Have you found the relevant part, Mr. Guzzati?
Yes, I have. Thank you.
In relation to names on the base of which indictments were raised, Mr. Haradinaj states that the lawyer told you that those names could not be disclosed. At the beginning of this press conference, you stated there are various people, various names in here whom we are not authorized to disclose. Isn't it true, Mr. Guzzati, that you understood that in these documents there were witness names that you were not authorized to disclose?
This interview by Mr. Haradinaj is mostly to do with the indictment that has been raised. You can read the sentence in its entirety. If you don't read the whole of it, it's difficult to understand. So it's best to read from the beginning to the end. The reference here is about certain indictments that have been made. That's what I can see here. So it would be best to read all the sentence in order to understand. And I'm failing to comprehend it myself here, even though I can read in Albanian very well. It would be best to read the sentence from the beginning to the end in order to be able to understand what we're talking about.
Mr. Guzzati, did you understand that in these documents there were witness names that you were not authorized to disclose?
I've seen names, I said, well, they were names of witnesses or a draft indictment. I don't know. And I don't know what the reference to these names is about, but it's equally true that what I said, that I'm not authorized to disclose the names of people, and nobody else is, for that matter, either. It's a question of a protection of data privacy. That is why we have never disclosed any names.
Is it true, Mr. Guzzati, that in the course of this press conference, you publicly asked the media to publish witness name? isn't it?
Unë vlasëqëm për emnin
I can only speak on my own behalf. I don't know of a single case where I've told a TV station, a journalist, or a media portal to take this document and to publish the name and surname of a certain person.
I would like to play an excerpt from the third press conference. Is P00035 and is confidential, although the excerpt that I request to play does not contain confidential information. The reference in the English transcript for the interpreters is from page 13 onwards, and in particular, from page 12 onwards, and in particular from the timestamp 002315, 002419 is in the middle of page 12, and I would like to play it until 002603. Sorry, until 002605. So it's 3 minutes of video.
No. This meeting has been... We hold these every third month. Every third month we do the same thing. These are regular meetings.
It's from 002315. Correct? From here? Okay.
No. This is a meeting that has been planned, well planned. Every third month we hold them. Every third month we have these. This is a regular meeting. A regular meeting. These are completely regular.
A mistake in the transcript about the timestamp. The part that I'm referring to is 002415, and it's in the middle of page 12.
Maybe I'll go to jail. Do you understand Albanian? Am I force 4 or you? I am force 4. If I'd been the media, I would have done the same. You should not be forced to do that. I showed you the documents. You showed me. You show me exactly the same thing. You show me, and you'll see if I dare do that. That's what I'm saying. We are very prepared. We've been prepared all the time. It's don't keep telling me stories that are suitable to you. You are the media. I know one thing. You are the fourth pillar of the state. I don't have your force. Listen, you are the media that has publicized. every person has a name and surname. You are not able to show the names and surnames. They are Albanians. 80% have testified there. We have the material. It's in front of us. This is where it is. You're welcome to read it. Just like you have publicized the names of fake veterans, you can do the same. You take up the courage, the same courage. Pluck up the same courage.
Mr. Gucati, in this part of the video, you were asked by a journalist, so you are asking to publish them. Why are you not publishing them? To which Mr. Haradinaj replies that the media should publish them because the media are the fourth pillar of the state. And you add, I wanted to give you an answer here. You have published the fake veterans by their full names. As to, we did not want to sue the media, but the person's privacy is protected. You publish full names. You even publish their personal identity numbers. And now you are not able to publish their names. They are Albanian too. 80% of the people who gave evidence are Albanians. Aren't you asking the media, Mr. Gucati, to publish the names of Albanian witnesses exactly as they publish the name of the fake veterans?
Before giving details, let me just say that I have said that it's not fair to publish names. I told them that you have broken the law by publishing the names and surnames and ID numbers of the veterans. This was a provocation on the part of a journalist. Journalists who provoked Nassim to say so, and that was an infringement, the publication of the names of the veterans, that is. I said that if you think that you are right to publish those names, then feel welcome to publish these ones as well. I have never offered this document to them. I said to take it up and do it. But I said that should you have the courage, pick it up and do it. But I have not invited them. I said from the inception that it is not morally right to publish names and surnames of a person like you've done earlier. You can hear me there. And when provoked by the journalist, I said that should you have the courage, you pick it up and publish the names. That's exactly what happened there.
And later on, and I'm referring to page 14 of the transcript, you keep going and you say, here is the material, you are welcome to read it, the same way you publish the names of the fake veterans. And you conclude in page 14 still, take the same courage like you did with the veterans. Aren't you here asking the media, Mr. Gucati, to publish the names of Albanian witnesses in the same way as they publish the name of the fake veterans?
No, what I told them is that this is where the materials are. I mean, it was clear that the materials were there because that was the reason why we called the press conference. And I told them that it was their responsibility, not mine. I said there that it's prohibited for the names and for the identity information of the other persons to be disclosed. This is something that you can see with yourselves here, and that's something that I referred in other statements as well. So, and I told the media that you are the ones who published the fake names of the veterans, and that was not your right. That's what I said.
We can indeed see it for ourselves. And Mr. Gucati, did you know that releasing that witnesses could be harmed as a result of releasing their names to the public. Is this correct?
We have not released any names in the public. There has been no declaration made on our behalf. I mean, show me one document or one media outlet where we have released the name of a witness. I mean, show me one case that I've mentioned the name of this or that witness.
It was different, Mr. Guzzati. Did you know that by releasing names of witnesses, in particular the 80% of Albanian witnesses you're referring to in the press conference, to the public, witnesses could be harmed? Were you aware of that, weren't you?
Exactly. The reason why I said that it's not good to release the names and the statements of these people, and this is why I said that it's prohibited by law to release the names of such people. That is something that I've said in public rallies or in different news features or media outlets. That's something that I've said constantly.
Releasing the witness names to the public is prohibited because, for example, their privacy could be affected, as in the case of the fake veterans. Is this correct?
This is what I said at the outset. It is prohibited to disclose the name of the persons.
Releasing witness names could harm witnesses because their safety could be endangered. Do you agree, Mr. Guzzati?
I have not released a single name of one witness. And that's true for myself, for the chairmanship of the association. We have not released any names to the media related to any witness.
Names of witnesses to the public endangers witness safety. Do you agree with that?
In the moment when I say that this is prohibited, and given that this is something that I have said in all the conferences, the use of the word prohibition, this is self-telling. It shows that it's prohibited to disclose the name of a protected witness. I've never done this.
Disclosing witness names to the public would endanger the safety of witness. Do you agree with that?
I'm telling you again, if a name was released by myself, by the presidency of the KLAWVA, of course, then we would have harmed, in a way, the witnesses, but we have not disclosed any such name, and therefore there is no reason for them to be harmed. This is what I'm telling you. This is strictly prohibited.
Please focus on the question that I'm asking you, Mr. Guzzati. Do you agree that releasing names of witnesses to the public domain endangers the safety of witnesses? Do you agree with this proposition?
Given that we have released no names, neither myself or the journalists or my friends, I don't know who can be put in danger because of that. We have not released any names of any witness. If we release any names, we might probably put in danger someone, but that has not been the case. We have not released any names.
Do you agree, Mr. Guzzati, that there has been a history of attempts to intimidate witnesses in war crime cases involving KLA accused?
What are you talking about? I don't know. I don't know.
You don't agree with this proposition, that there has been a history of witness intimidation in trials concerning in war crime trials concerning KLA members. You don't agree with that?
I have had no time to deal with that matter. I don't know of anyone threatening someone else because I had my own problems. I had the problems with the leg. My daughter was suffering of leukemia. I was dealing with my personal things, with my personal matters. My daughter was sick, like I said, therefore I had no interest on the matter that you are asking me about.
Mr. Guzzati, you told us before that you were familiar with the ICTY case concerning Ramush Haradinaj. Is this correct? Mr. Guzzati, you told us before that you are familiar with the ICTY trial in the Ramush Haradinaj case, didn't you?
Every citizen of Europe and of the Balkans is aware of those proceedings. When I had the time, I have followed the proceedings via the TV. Like I said, I had my own concerns. My family had its own concerns. In 2006, my daughter was sick to leukemia and she died. But if I had free time, I have followed the proceedings of ICTY. But like I said, I had my personal concerns, my personal worries, and I have not constantly followed it.
To refer to the judgment in the Ramush Haradinaj case. This is the ICTY judgment IT 0484V of the 3rd April 2008, and in particular to paragraph 6. It's a public judgment, which reads: throughout the trial chamber encountered significant difficulties in securing the testimony of a large number of witnesses. Many witnesses cited fear as a prominent reason for not wishing to appear before the trial chamber to give evidence. The trial chamber gained the strong impression that the trial was being held in an atmosphere where witnesses felt unsafe. This was due to a number of factors specific to Kosovo, for example, Kosovo's small communities and tight family and community networks, which made guaranteeing anonymity difficult. The parties themselves agreed that an unstable security situation existed in Kosovo that was particularly unfavorable to witnesses. Were you aware, Mr. Guzzati, that the Ramush Haradinaj trial had been affected by difficulties in overcoming witness fears to testify?
First of all, thank you very much for recalling 2008. I have documents that verify that I've been in Istanbul, in Turkey, and I've been throughout this year in Turkey undergoing surgeries. I am not aware of that at all. I can provide you with the documents attesting that I have been hospitalized during that year. Thank you very much for bringing up year 2008 to me.
Mr. Guzzati, you were or you were not following the Ramush Haradinaj's case?
In 2008, I was in the hospital in Turkey. There was no television in the hospital, and let alone an Albanian channel. So like I said, I can tell you the exact date that I went to the hospital. I was operated upon in Turkey, and the operation has lasted for many years, for 7 years. And 2008 was a year where I underwent many surgeries, and I had known as to think about Haradinaj. I could not even think about my father. So I had my family problems, and this is real. And like I said, I can provide the documents to you if you so wish.
Become aware later on whether in the Haradinaj case the court expressed publicly difficulties encountered in securing witness evidence because of the intimidation witnesses had been subject to.
I was not interested. I didn't ask anyone about that. I have not taken any interest about the subject matter you're asking me about. So I have read the decisions so that he was acquitted, and that is something of interest to me. Like I said, I had my own personal concerns, and so I have been operated upon 27 different times. I have not dealt with that matter. I'm sorry.
Now exhibit P00161, which is a confidential document and is also multi-language. So I would ask to open it twice if possible. Now, without Mr. Gucati reading the names of the accused in this case, can you tell us whether you were familiar with the trial concerning this accused?
No, I haven't taken part in any of the hearings. I know them all, but I have never taken part in any of the proceedings in the trial in question.
Did you know that this trial took place?
Yes, I do. I know that this trial took place. So that is something that I followed through the media, and I was the chair of the Veteran Association for Skandere. I think some of them were acquitted, some of them were declared guilty. This is a trial that has lasted for a very, very long period of time, if I'm not mistaken. So trials were public in Kosovo back then.
Without mentioning the name, the persons that were accused in these proceedings, were they senior KLA members, looking, for example, at the first three?
I have not had any dealings with them during the war. I don't know about that. I have been in my village, like I said, and that's it.
President of the KLA War Veteran Association. Are you able to tell if these ones are KLA members or not?
I am the chairman of the KLA World Veteran Association. I am not in that position to distribute degrees, who is a captain and who is a major. I'm not the person that assigns those military grades to them. I don't know anything about that. I just used to be a simple soldier.
That this one, the first three persons mentioned here, for example, these are were KLA members. Can you confirm that?
They have all been members of the Kosovo Liberation Army. I have myself been part of the KLA. About their military ranking, I don't know about that. I've been a simple soldier of the KLA.
Thank you. I would like to refer to page 4 of the page 4 on the left side of the screen, and page 4 on the right side of the screen. They correspond. And court officer, if you scroll down, the page are numbered 1 to 4 in English and then again 1 to 4 in Albanian. So that would be the page marked with SITF 00372151. And this order reads, the pretrial judge has recognized that indeed a serious risk can be established in the present case due to both the general conditions present in Kosovo and the individual circumstances of the witnesses and injured parties in the particular case. Witness intimidation in war crimes trial still remain a severe problem in Kosovo. According to an OSCE report assessing the past 10 years of trials in Kosovo, the issue of witness protection has undermined prosecution of war crime cases perhaps more than any other single issue. This issue is prevalent in Kosovo due to the small geographic size of the country and the extended nature of family structure, which makes witnesses vulnerable to threats and intimidation against family members. Furthermore, the fear of threats seems to rise in cases involving ex-members of the KLA forces, since the general public regards ex-KLA fighters as national heroes and as such untouchable. Following the death of a key witness in a war crime case in Kosovo on 28
Your Honor.
September. I want to finish, please.
Apologies for interrupting.
I would like to finish.
This is a finding from a pre-trial judge,
Yes,
nearly a decade old. Perhaps Ms. Balici could spell out the relevance first for the area of question.
No, we'll let her finish reading. She can then make her question, then you can interpose your objection.
Well,
at
I've
that
made
time.
my objection, Your Honour.
Well, your objection's overruled at this time.
Following the death of a key witness in a war crime case in Kosovo on 28 September 2011, the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights expressed its concern about witness protection in Kosovo and called for an independent witness and victim protection system to be put in place. OHCHR said that only an effective and well-resourced witness and victim protection system could help bring justice to victims and end impunity for past violation in Kosovo. Do you agree, Mr. Gucati, that this order provides a fair description of the climate of witness intimidation in Kosovo proceedings against KLA members? Don't you?
First of all, I don't have anything to do with this document. This is a document that has been published about 10 years ago, 2011, perhaps. I don't know what you are talking about. I have always been against those people that have intimidated others, and that's my stance to this day. I think that the personality and dignity of every person has to be protected. This is true, and there are recordings about that. I've said that throughout my time, and at that time I was not the chairman of the association, but I was working in Pristina in 2011. I don't know. I have not heard of any case, because that was not part of my domain. I had no interest in the matter.
You say that you are against those people that have intimidated others. So you are aware that there are examples of people intimidating others with reference to this kind of trial. Is this correct?
No. This is not correct. I'm not aware of that. I said that 1 minute ago. I have not heard that. I'm not aware of anything, I don't know where you're basing yourself. I mean, how do you know that I'm aware of that? No, I'm not aware of that, and it's not true that Icdy Gucati knows that this person or that person has been intimidated against. No, that's not true.
This person or that person, I'm asking whether you are aware that trials in Kosovo against members of the KLA have been affected by recurring problem of witness intimidation. Are you aware of that?
Joo.
No.
I would like to put on the screen document SPOE 00248303 to 00248404, which is also confidential. Mr. Gucati, without mentioning the names, you can see them in bold. Do you know whether the names mentioned in bold on the first page of this document correspond to members of the KLA who underwent a criminal trial?
Joo, nuk e di.
No, I do not know. This is the 10th of August 2006. My daughter died on the 15th of October, and I was in Skopje in hospital with my daughter. Therefore, I'm not aware at all what happened. And this is something that I can provide documents about. I can tell you that I have been in Skopje all year long. So from October 2005 up until the 15th of October 2006, when my daughter died. She died of leukemia. So like I said, I had my problems, my personal worries, both my health-related issues for myself and for my daughter. Therefore, I'm not aware of it at all.
Can I just ask, does this document have a P number?
No, it doesn't. It's on the SPO exhibit list.
So it hasn't been admitted?
It has not been admitted.
No. Just the last question, and because then I would need to move to private session. We can do it perhaps after the break. The first name in bold, Mr. Gucati, that you see on the first paragraph. Do you know this person?
Do not use his name.
Rjet për një familje shumë të madhe.
He comes from a very big family. His family was imprisoned by the Serb forces for many, many years.
Jo që një fune, po
And he is not only somebody I know, but everyone in Kosovo know him because of his contribution to his country.
KLA member. Is this correct?
ky është I regjistruar si veteran lufte.
He is registered as a war veteran with the War Veteran Association. He is a member of the association and a former member of the KLA.
Your Honor, I think it's a good time to break, and I will take from here after the break. Thank you.
We will break for lunch. Back here at, I'm sorry. We'll break for lunch, be back at 2:30. We'll be ready to begin at that time. Oop, I just broke my thing.
Well, can I raise those two matters that I mentioned first thing this morning at 2:30?
We're going to do that right after lunch.
Grateful, thank you.
Right after lunch, okay?
Thank you, Your Honour.
All rise. All rise.
Please be seated. It seems we have run into a problem with connection to the detention unit, and Mr. Haradinaj, for that reason, cannot be present to observe. They are working on trying to get a solution. Our plan would be that we will maybe give them a half hour, and if we can't do that, we'll just have to adjourn today and come back in the morning to take up where we left off. Because, of course, he has to be able to see what's going on. Any questions by anybody?
No. Would Your Honour still allow me to raise the two matters that I wish to raise at this stage?
Mr. Cadman, your client will not be able to hear this. Do you want to allow Mr. Rees to raise the two issues that he has?
Well, Your Honour, I haven't had a chance to speak to Mr. Rees, so I don't know. I'm not muted, so I don't know.
We can't hear you, Mr. Cadman.
I'm not muted, so I don't know why you can't hear me.
You can hear
I can't hear you because I don't have my earphones.
I didn't.
Ms. Bolici, I sympathize with your previous position. I'm sorry, Mr. Cadman. Go ahead, start over, please.
Thank you. Certainly, I was going to raise the issue with you because I've not been able to speak to Mr. Haradinaj all day this morning or during the lunch break. I did speak to, as I'm sure the court staff has, spoke to the person who's trying to resolve the issue. I would rather that Mr. Haradinaj is in court to hear. I appreciate it's very certainly one of the matters, maybe a small matter that Mr. Rees wants to raise that may not be that controversial, but obviously I haven't had a chance to speak to Mr. Haradinaj about it yet.
Okay, I understand. I will tell you that the 1023 decision on the one outstanding issue will be filed today, later today.
I'm grateful for that, Your Honour. Perhaps if I could just briefly set out the issue I wanted to raise, and perhaps Mr. Cadman can, so I'm not sure to what extent Mr. Cadman knows the issue that I wish to raise. It is only a housekeeping issue, it's an administrative issue, which will allow us to plan for our further defence witnesses.
Because of you wanted to schedule your witnesses, correct?
Absolutely, and how we're going to deal with, how we propose to deal with them.
Is that all right, Mr. Cadman?
Absolutely. I was going to ask anyway so that we know as far as our scheduling is concerned.
Okay, and we're making a record of this. If your client wants to review the record, you can certainly make that available to him on the transcript.
So I'm very grateful to Mr. Cadman. In short, the position is this: we've already indicated that with the remaining defence witnesses for Mr. Gucati, we would wish to take advantage of Rule 154 to ensure that proceedings are efficient and expeditious. We would propose, therefore, that in relation to each of the following defence witnesses, that once they've been identified, and we ask them to identify their witness statement and to confirm that it accurately reflects his or her declaration and what he or she would say if examined, we would then seek to admit the written statement in lieu of direct examination, read the statement, save for those parts that the SPO have specifically raised objection to, and then tender the witness for cross-examination. We would submit that's an efficient way of progressing to ensure that we complete the Gucati defence in the allotted period.
And that would be to all of the remaining witnesses?
To the remaining witnesses. There may be some additional, very, very short questions. So, for example, with one witness, we would wish to adduce a video recording that she refers to in the statement. But in short, we would be seeking to adduce the statement in lieu of direct examination.
Okay, and Mr. Cadman, I assume you have no objection to that?
It seems a perfectly reasonable position to take.
Madam Bolici, do you?
Your Honor, yes. The only thing is that according to the order on conduct of proceedings is a summary of the statement that needs to be read and not the entirety of the summary, and that we maintain the objections on relevance on parts of the statement that we have already raised.
And I believe believe Mr. Rees has already addressed that. This seems like a good solution. I'm sorry, this seems like a good solution. It seems like there's no objection.
I'm grateful. The statements themselves are concise, so we propose to read the statement subject to not reading those parts that the SPO have identified that take objection to.
Are you saying you want a separate summary, or just to use the ones that we have?
I'm just observing, Your Honor, that it would defeat the purpose of the efficiency of the proceedings if we were to go through all the statements of all the witnesses, and the concise summary could be presented instead.
But the admission of the document, you would have the entire document, save for your objections, you would have no objection to.
I wouldn't have objections to the Rule 154 admission, except for the paragraphs that are considered to be relevant.
Can you prepare a short summary of each? Sort of defeats the purpose.
We can do, but our view is they're concise statements, and it would definitely save time if we read them into the record.
Especially if you cut out some of the matters that are
absolutely
not relevant.
Absolutely.
I believe we can go. I believe, Ms. Bellici, I understand your concern, but I think it's reasonable to go ahead and submit the documents themselves, the witness statements themselves, less the objected matters.
I note, Your Honor, that in some of the statements there are a lot of paragraphs about the background of the witnesses, about their history, about their knowledge of the accused, and I don't believe this is a matter that should be like read
And we've
out.
noticed the same, and we will deal with those. Understood? Some of the material, for example, on some of the witnesses, Mr. Rees, deal with their background in the war, which I know you're calling them for a different reason, and the rest of it is just background.
Well, we would wish the statements to be admitted in full. I'll look again, and I will look at cutting down the statement.
We'll have to decide
Yeah.
if we cut something out on our own. We'll have
Of
to
course.
decide if we need to cut
Of
something
course.
out on our own. Let's proceed on that basis.
I'm grateful.
Just one more matter, Your Honor. I've been reminded that based on the witness preparation sessions that have been notified to us between yesterday and today, at least one of the witnesses stated that she does not recall very well what she had stated in the previous statement. This is DW1242. So for this one, we will want to verify in court what she says in relation to her previous statement is accurate or inaccurate.
We don't believe that was the effect of the note that's been disclosed, but the note has been disclosed and should be here for cross-examination, and Ms. Bellici can cross-examine on the note.
One other issue is Mr. Bowden's testimony. I thought we had suggested that agreed facts would be sufficient, and I think the prosecution agreed to that. Is there a problem with doing it that way?
No, not at all.
Okay.
And in fact, I have just been in correspondence with the prosecution about some other potential proposed agreed facts. They're a work in progress. They've already commenced. We would hope to reduce down, for example, the number of documents that we might wish to admit through the bar table by using instead agreed facts which deal concisely with the fact that the defence wished to draw from a document rather than seeking to reduce the whole document. So there's a work in progress on agreed proposed facts, and we will look to conclude that before the end of the Gucati defence.
All right. Ms. Bellici?
Yeah, Your Honor, just to say for the Bowden testimony, our suggestions in our filing was to admit the statement under Rule 153 if the defense intends to tender it under 153.
Your Honour, could I be heard?
Yeah, just a minute, Mr. Cadman. We're still back and forth with Mr. Rees.
Well, that's the point. That's what I wanted
to adopt
to raise an objection
trial
to.
panel's
Oh,
suggestion of an agreed proposed fact, because it does seem like it's a very straightforward matter. But we will liaise with the SPO, and we will look to resolve that without burdening the trial panel with anything they don't need to be burdened with.
I think Mr. Rees wants to object to something. Go ahead, Mr. Rees. I'm sorry, Mr. Cadman.
Well, I think the objection will be moot now, because I was going to say that we're going further than what was going to be just a preliminary discussion about housekeeping and started to get into more substance, in which Mr. Haradinaj should be here, but Your Honour, you've dealt with it now, so my objection is moot.
Well, bear in mind, if you want to wait and discuss this in his presence, we can do that. Did you hear me?
I did, Your Honour.
Okay.
But he's not here to hear it, and we
Thank
don't
you.
know when he is going to be here to hear it.
Thank you. All right, so unless they call in the next 20 minutes, we will be finished for the day. Please stay near at hand.
Just,
Ms. Polici.
sorry, Your Honor, thank you. I just would like to provide a short notification, and I will repeat it once Mr. Haradinaj is in the courtroom, and is that in relation to the filing of the Gucati's defense, number 478, the prosecution has no objection to the addition to these items to the exhibit list, and we reserve our objections to the time when these items will be tendered into evidence. We have objections into the admissibility, in relation to the admissibility of some of these items.
Mr. Rees.
I'm grateful for that indication.
Thank you. Anything else from anyone? Sorry about this afternoon, but couldn't be helped. We'll see. We'll let you know for sure at 3 o'clock whether we're finished for the day. Thank you.
All rise.